Welcome to Calming Harp, the sounds of David's Psalms. I'm glad you've joined us for this brief moment we share together. I will be playing some of the music that has been brought out of the Psalms. My name is Steve Rees. I play the harp, and over the last several years I've been bringing the sounds of David's Psalms into recordings. You can find a lot of my music on my website, www.calmingharp.com. I have CDs available and MP3s. And you can go to YouTube. If you go to YouTube and then type in Peregrinati, Peregrinnatti, you will find hours of beautiful harp music that you can just play in the background and be calmed with the music that David may have played for his sheep at one time or another. So as we share this half hour, join me and enjoy the sounds of David's harp. Well, here we go for another week, and I'm glad you joined. We're going to finish the last two of the Psalms of Aliyah tonight, and I'm saying tonight because it's evening while I'm working on this. Once again, I find myself in California helping take care of my mother. She's doing okay, so thanks for all your prayers. Anyway, Psalm 133 and 134. Remember, there are 15 of the Psalms of Ascent. And I'm going to also play on Psalm 134. I'm going to play one of the early versions with the cello and let you hear the comparison between the two. So once again, thinking of these Psalms as possibly being, well, not possibly, we're told historically that the priests would sing them each morning on each of the steps from the court of the men up into the platform of the altar, the burnt offering altar, brazen altar. And we also are told historically that as the pilgrims would come up to Jerusalem for the feast, they would be singing these psalms. So in first of all, getting the musical notes out of each of the words of the Psalms, and then the chords that are made out of each of the collection of notes in each of the words, and then chord to chord, the chord progressions. What I have tried to do, as I've explained before, is to take these words of the Psalms and try to make the music come across as what those words might sound like, the expressions of the words, the feelings of the words, the overall mood of the words, all of those things taken into account. And so the first one we're going to do is Psalm 133. I titled it on my album Precious Oil. It's called The Blessing of Unity, Psalm 133. And many of you have quoted this before, and you'll recognize it as I begin to read. A Song of Ascents of David. Behold, how good and how precious or pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious oil upon the head, coming down upon the beard, Aaron's beard, coming down on the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Mount Hermon, coming down upon the mountains of Sion. For there Adonai, our Heavenly Father, commands the blessing, life forevermore. And I've always thought how incredible these words are, that if we, the brethren and sistern, as some of us say, can come together in unity, it actually commands a blessing from our Heavenly Father. It makes the way for Him to bless us in a way that He cannot bless us in any other way. And I often think of how the enemy must try to get us to not be in unity, because in doing so, he's actually succeeding in withholding these blessings from us. And so is it no wonder that there is so much division that we see today? Is it no wonder that unity is so hard to come by? Is it no wonder, as Shirley and I go around the country doing programs, so many times we see fellowships that were once thriving split up, no longer meeting, or divided, and one over there and another over there, and neither talking to each other. It reminds me of a story of a Jewish man who was shipwrecked by himself on an island, and he was there for years, and he would think he'd see a ship and he'd put up a smoke signal, and the time would go by and nothing, no rescue. And one day his smoke signal reached a ship that came, and they rowed ashore, and they said, there is somebody here, and look, we've come to rescue him. And as they were getting ready to load him in the boat, they noticed that there were 2 buildings there, and they said, "What are those buildings?" And he said, "Oh, those are the synagogues." And they said, "Well, is there somebody else here with you?" And he said, No, it's just me." And they said, "Well, what in the world have you got 2 synagogues here for?" And he said, "Well, this is the one I worship in, and that's the one I'll never set my foot in." And sometimes we laugh at these things, but it's actually quite sad, because it's so true. And I'm not picking on the Jews. I think I see it in the Baptists and the Presbyterians and the Methodists and the whatever, the Catholics, you name it, it's there. And unity, it's always such a hard commodity to come by, because I remember reading a book on community life by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and he said, community will never succeed until we have no other choice. And frankly, today we have too many choices. We don't like something, we're out of here. So David is speaking about a special blessing that our Heavenly Father is commanded from our Heavenly Father, if we can truly come together in unity. And remember, unity is not uniformity. It doesn't mean we have to be all alike. But it means that even if we disagree, we can agree to disagree and not become unpleasant. We can respect each other, and we can have a wonderful fellowship, even with some disagreements sometimes. We can still have wonderful fellowship and support each other. I'm reminded of another scene from the Fiddler on the Roof, where Tevye is in the town square, and there happens to be a couple of people arguing, and Tevye goes, he's right, to one fellow, and a little bit on further in the discussion, he's right. And then his friend that's also watching with him, he said, "But Tevye, they can't both be right." And Tevye says, "You're right." And that seems to be a way I think what David's talking about here. that we can disagree, but we can be right. So, anyway, just my 2 cents I'm throwing in there. So let's listen to Psalm 133. So the next psalm we're going to take a look at is Psalm 134, the last of the Psalms of Ascent. And I have titled it High Praise, a call to worship, to evening worship. A song of ascents. Behold, bless Adonai, all servants of Adonai, who stand by night in the house of Adonai. Lift up your hands to the sanctuary and bless Adonai. May Adonai bless you out of Zion, maker of heaven and earth. Once again, we're talking about the blessings. And this psalm is one of the psalms that, in fact, as I play here, the first one, we're going to be playing with the cello again. And my friend John added a couple little flourishes with his cello. I always enjoy what he does. So I'll play that one, and we'll listen to that, and then we'll play the second version that is more of a composition. So listen to Cello John and Steve playing cello and harp on Psalm 134. Well, we had some fun with that one, as you can tell. I think David probably had fun with some of his music as well. It's interesting, some of his psalms are very joyful, and some are very somber, and some are complaining. I believe that's one of the reasons why David is called a man after God's own heart, because he was real. He didn't mask his feelings to try to make himself look like something he wasn't. Seems to be one of the things our culture tries to teach us to do today, and unfortunately to great problems. Let's just put it that way. One of the things I note in this psalm is that it's calling on us to bless Adonai, to bless our Heavenly Father, to bless God. And how many times do we hear God bless us, or God bless America, or God bless this? And I'm not saying it's wrong to ask God to bless things. I'm not saying that at all. He tells us, you have not because you ask not. So I'm not saying don't ask for the blessings. But at the same time, David is reminding us, I believe here, that there are times when we need to be blessing God. It's fascinating to think about why our Heavenly Father created us in the first place. And once again, I revert to my one harp string that I'm always harping on, and that is relationship, relationship, relationship. Our Heavenly Father, I believe, created us for relationship. I mean, just think of our own natural life. We have kids, and a lot of why we have kids is because we take joy in interacting with them and doing things with them and being with them and talking with them and hearing what they think. And we're created in our Heavenly Father's image, it tells us in Genesis. So I think the fact that we have those desires is an expression of that part of our Heavenly Father, that we were created like Him. So why wouldn't He be that as well? And so I think David right here is reminding us that later on, Ecclesiastes would tell us for everything there is a season and a time for everything under heaven. And there's a time for us to ask for our Heavenly Father's blessing to us, but there's also a time for us to bless Him. And David's reminding us here in Psalm 134 that this is one of those times. Another thing he reminds us of is the lifting of our hands. He says, lift up your hands to the sanctuary and bless Adonai, or our Heavenly Father. And there's another psalm where David says that the evening sacrifice is as the lifting of our hands. I did a talk one time on the ways that we can do sacrifices without killing animals. To obey is better than to sacrifice, and to listen is better than the fat of rams, we're told. And then what I just quoted, the lifting of our hands is as the evening sacrifice. And so many times, so many places where people are in worship, I see some feel free to lift their hands and praise the Father and just be blessing the Father that way. And I really understand that to be what David's talking about here. In other places we go, you're not supposed to do anything. You're supposed to just stand there. So David's encouraging us to be active in our worship towards our Heavenly Father. Psalm 134 is my wife's favorite one, so I'm going to play Psalm 134, and then I'll have a few comments to close this out. So here we go. So that was fun too. And I've always felt that that should be an active, lively song. And so that's the way I played it. Remember David, just continuing a little bit on about the active worship. We're told when he was bringing the ark up from Obed-Edom's house that into a tent that he had prepared for it up in near his palace, that he danced before the Lord. In some of the translations, it says wildly, and we know by Michal's response to him when he comes into the home, their palace, she castigates him for looking ridiculous as in front of the maidens. And David, it's interesting because Michal never has children after that. It's a curse that is placed on her. And I don't understand curses all that much, but she was not willing to enter into praising our Heavenly Father the way David was. I think that's another reason why David is called a man after God's own heart, because he was passionate, he was unreserved, he was willing to look ridiculous. Later on we read in Paul, he basically says, you're going to be a fool for somebody, so whose fool are you? You're going to be a fool for God, or you're going to be a fool for man? And that's really a decision we all have to make, isn't it? You know, we're in the middle of these things that are going on around us right now, and we're being told to conform. Just be normal. Don't step out of bounds. But what the Father says is, I've told you what I think is important. Now you choose. You choose me or you choose the world. You cannot serve God and mammon. So I'll leave you with those thoughts and encourage you to continue to join me. I've got some more Psalms to share with you as the weeks go by. And I'm in the process of recording some more as well. So we'll keep this flowing. So I hope you've enjoyed our time together. Stay tuned, as I say. Little pun. I have many more songs to share with you. I have more to share about how this all comes together. And I pray that you will share and help people, especially those you see stressed, especially in these times that we're going through. Bring people to this calming and this peace and this rest that this beautiful music of the Psalms of David brings to each of our lives. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you next week. Many, many blessings to you all today.